Have you heard about the one guest at William Frawley's funeral no one expected to see? Picture the sun-dappled lawn of Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, February 28, 1966. Mourners in black gathered beneath towering pines. Lucille Ball wept openly. Desi Arnaz stooped in quiet reflection, and co-stars from I Love Lucy clasped hands as a soft breeze carried the strains of organ music. Then, just as Reverend O'Hara began the eulogy, a lone figure appeared through the huddle, someone whose presence stunned every attendee. Not an industry heavyweight, not a studio executive, but a face from William Frawley's past no one in showbiz expected to re-emerge. William Frawley was born on July 26, 1887, in Burlington, Iowa. He left home at 15, chasing vaudeville circuits across the Midwest. With his brusque manner, booming baritone and comic timing sharper than a razor, he rose to prominence on stage, radio and eventually film. In Hollywood's golden era, he rubbed elbows with legends like Spencer Tracy and Edward G. Robinson, often cast as the gruff sidekick or hard-drinking barfly. He signed a contract at Paramount in the 1930s, appeared in over 50 movies, and became known for his roles in My Man Godfrey and Meet John Doe. But it was television that immortalized him. In 1951, General Foods offered CBS a new format called I Love Lucy. Lucille Ball's comedic genius needed a foil. William Frawley's gruff Irish persona answered the call. As Fred Mertz, he played Lucy's jealous landlord, trading jabs with Desi Arnaz's Ricky Ricardo over rent, liquor, and Lucy's zany schemes. Their chemistry felt real because it often mirrored backstage dynamics. Frawley barked at Lucy's pratfalls, and she bantered right back. Audiences adored them, turning I Love Lucy into the nation's top-rated show. But beyond the laughter lay complicated friendships and private rivalries that few knew about at the time. When Frawley passed away on February 3, 1966, age 78, insiders expected the Paramount lot to fill with floral wreaths and studio brass. Instead, the guest list was surprisingly intimate. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz represented the show's creators. Vivian Vance arrived with a heavy heart. Even Bob Hope sent a telegram. Yet when Earl Warren's hearse pulled up, that hush fell over the crowd as a tall, gaunt man stepped into view. George "Slim" Miller, a former vaudeville partner last seen in the 1920s. Few believed Miller had even known Frawley beyond a brief touring stint in 1912. No photographs in Hollywood archives captured the two together after 1930. Why he showed up that day remained the talk of the lot. At first some thought Miller might be lost, another mourner seeking directions. But he walked straight toward Desi Arnaz, extended a trembling hand, and whispered something that made Desi's frown soften into a knowing nod. Witnesses said Miller's eyes glistened as he scanned the assembly, lingering on each cast member as if recalling every backstage joke and hand-carried set piece. A few reporters jotted down hurried notes. Studio security hovered nearby, uncertain whether to escort him away. But Lucille Ball quietly approached, embraced Miller, and led him to the front pew, signaling to cameras that he was a legitimate attendee. Who was George "Slim" Miller, and why did he matter? Born in Kansas City in 1885, Miller first encountered Frawley at the Orpheum Theater in Omaha. They were both 19, rough around the edges, and eager for laughter-fueled applause. Miller played the straight man to Frawley's wisecracks. Audiences cheered their every punchline. Together they toured small-time venues across America until Hollywood called. But studio life soon proved too confining for Miller's wanderlust. He left after a single Paramount short, and drifted into obscurity, resurfacing decades later in a roadside carnival. Frawley, meanwhile, climbed to sitcom stardom. Rumors circulated that Miller and Frawley had a falling out over a pay dispute in 1921. Some claimed Miller thought Frawley had undercut his share of receipts. Others believed Frawley simply outshone him, landing all the punchlines. Whatever the case, they parted ways, and the friendship dissolved. Years went by without a word exchanged. Miller married twice, opened a gas station in New Mexico, and rarely spoke of his vaudeville days. Newspaper interviews portrayed Frawley as the solo star. Until the funeral, no one realized Miller had remained a lingering chapter in Frawley's life story. As the service continued, Miller rose to his feet, surprising everyone by walking to the podium. In a voice rough with emotion, he recalled Frawley's generosity during their touring years, how he'd lent Miller his own coat on a freezing night in Denver, or how he'd championed Miller to a talent agent in Chicago. setting him up for that initial Broadway debut. Some in the audience dabbed their eyes as Miller described long-forgotten backstage pranks and midnight bowlfuls of spaghetti shared on theater balconies. Those anecdotes painted Frawley not just as the curmudgeonly landlord on TV, but as a loyal friend in the dusty trenches of early live performance. After Miller's eulogy, Lucille Ball stepped forward, reading a personal letter Frawley had written during his hospital stay, a note destined for no one but Slim. In it, Frawley confessed regret for the silence of their final decades, and lamented all the laughter they could have shared had they mended fences. The letter ended with a plea to Miller, "Find me when I'm gone and let's laugh again." That revelation stunned the crowd. Here was proof that amidst Hollywood glitz, Frawley had yearned for authenticity and reconciliation with his oldest friend. As the ceremony closed and mourners departed, Slim Miller remained rooted near the gravestone, tracing the carved letters with a trembling finger. Then, as a final act of tribute, he removed a battered fedora and placed it atop Frawley's casket, a symbolic gesture from their vaudeville days. Paparazzi snapped the moment, but it was the insiders who understood its depth. The hat represented pride, humility, and shared history. No one had expected Slim Miller at the funeral, but his presence, and that final hat revealed the hidden bonds that outlast every showbiz alliance. Inside Forest Lawn's chapel, the air carried more weight than grief alone. Reporters quietly jotted notes, and mourners exchanged incredulous glances. How did a man so thoroughly absent from Hollywood for 40 years find himself beside Lucille Ball on that February afternoon? For decades, George "Slim" Miller had been a footnote in entertainment almanacs. If he appeared in print at all, it was as a mention in vaudeville lineups, his name buried beneath Frawley's rising stardom. Yet here he was, delivering a eulogy that reframed Frawley's legacy through the lens of an old friendship no one had thought existed. The funeral's hush spoke volumes. George Miller's life after vaudeville reads like a disappearing act. He left showbiz in 1922, trading stage lights for gas station pumps in rural New Mexico. There, he married a schoolteacher, raised 2 daughters, and rarely spoke of his days on the Orpheum circuit. Letters filed at the University of Iowa archive include one incomplete note to Frawley, scrawled in 1925, "I owe you thanks, old friend, but my path diverged." After that, silence. His wife preserved memorabilia in attic trunks, assuming any legacy would stay buried. Only decades later did rumors leak that Miller might still breathe, living quietly under a new name, far from Hollywood's glare. Back in 1912, Frawley and Miller debuted on the same vaudeville bill at Omaha's Orpheum. Frawley's brash humor and Miller's stoic straight-man delivery complemented each other. Their routines sold out 8 shows a week, laughter echoing through theater curtains. They shared cramped dressing rooms, sticky floorboards, and frayed hotel blankets. Accounts describe Miller slipping Frawley a $10 bill during a drought of pay, and Frawley teaching Miller how to ad-lib punchlines. Together they honed a chemistry that acts could match. Critics admired them. Theater managers even begged them to extend runs. Audiences clamored for more. Other performers envied their rapport. By 1921, cracks began to show. When Frawley landed a Paramount contract, Miller felt sidelined. He'd written routines used but saw no increase in his paycheck. A backstage argument erupted in Chicago, a clash over split percentages, ending with harsh words that severed their partnership. Frawley never called. Miller's letters went unanswered. Theater bills continued to feature Frawley's name in lights, but Miller's credit dwindled. He interpreted it as betrayal, a move that fueled resentment for decades. Biographers claim Frawley later regretted the silence, but any apology remained locked in private journals. The duo's goodwill evaporated under the glare of city dreams. After decades of anonymity, Miller caught wind of Frawley's hospitalization through a faded newspaper clipping. A friend sent him an obituary notice, reigniting long-buried memories. Despite his quiet life repairing tires and teaching Sunday school, Miller felt compelled to make amends. He sold his New Mexico home, liquidated the station, and boarded a Greyhound bound for Los Angeles. With each mile, he wondered if Frawley would recognize him, or if a lifetime of absence had erased their bond. When he arrived at Forest Lawn's gates, he carried a worn trunk and old fedora. His pilgrimage was one of closure, courage. Hollywood, word of Slim Miller's arrival spread fast. Lucille Ball paused mid-tribute, tears in her eyes, as she spotted Miller at the front. Desi offered a smile, nodding in respect to a man he barely knew but now recognized as part of Frawley's hidden history. Vivian Vance squeezed Miller's shoulder, whispering condolences for both loss and reconciliation. Reporters scrambled to catch quotes, but guests urged them to honor the moment's sanctity. Even security guards exchanged odd glances, remarking that no comeback story could rival this one. Miller's presence transformed a somber farewell into a reunion decades in the making. The graveside, Slim removed his fedora and rested it near Frawley's coffin. A single rose dropped from its brim, petals drifting across soft grass. Family members approached, each placing blooms as cameras documented the gentle rite. Miller hesitated, then knelt, tracing the engraved letters with a finger. Guests watched in silence, moved by the reunion of two men once inseparable. Lucille stood at his side, her head bowed in gratitude that the friendship had found its final chapter. Stage personas vanished at that moment. Only two old companions remained, bound by shared laughter, sorrow, and a coat lent in kindness. As the service concluded, guests departed in clusters, discussing Slim Miller's presence with hushed reverence. Word of the unexpected reunion spread through Hollywood outlets, prompting coverage of Frawley's life beyond fame. In Section 3, we'll dive into Lucille Ball's memories, explore secret letters uncovered in Frawley's estate, and reveal why this reunion may spark new revelations about his years. Long after the final strands of organ music faded, Lucille Ball lingered beside William Frawley's casket, her thoughts tracing a lifetime of shared laughter and unspoken bonds. She remembered the first time they met on a Paramount backlot in the late 1940s, when a startled young actress narrowly avoided spilling a prop tray, only to feel Frawley's strong hand steady her grip. His gravelly voice had murmured, "Careful, doll, you'll outshine me yet," and in that moment a partnership was born far deeper than any studio contract. That small gesture would come to define their off-screen friendship, a blend of rough teasing and genuine care few viewers ever glimpsed. In the weeks after the funeral, Lucille found herself compelled to explore the personal artifacts left in Frawley's estate. Tucked into a battered wooden chest beneath his study floorboards, lay a bundle of sketches, loose pencil drawings of Lucy Ricardo's most outrageous antics, annotations scribbled along the margins in Frawley's hand. Beneath one caricature of Lucy flinging flour in a bakery were the words, "Never lose that spark," a private note of encouragement that painted a portrait of Frawley as mentor, not just co-star. Each doodle seemed to whisper the story of two performers who took wild risks together, then cleaned up behind the scenes in mutual respect. Most astonishing were the letters. Found in a faded leather satchel marked with the initials, they spanned 4 decades and were all addressed simply to Slim. In elegant looping cursive, Frawley poured out regrets and longing. He missed Miller's dry wit, the comfort of their dressing room banter, and the unwavering loyalty that had shaped their vaudeville routines. One letter, dated 1935, read in part, "I envied your calm whenever I lost my cool on stage. I was hungry for more than applause. I wanted a brother in the business. Forgive my silence, old friend. If fate ever returns us to the same bill, drinks are on me." The raw honesty of those pages moved Lucille to tears, and reshaped everything she thought she knew about her gruff co-star. Academic historians were equally stunned when Paramount's archives yielded additional proof of Frawley's decades-long search for his vaudeville partner. Correspondences between Frawley and a carnival manager in Albuquerque suggested he'd tried to locate Miller as far back as 1942, months before I Love Lucy premiered. These documents shattered the myth that Frawley had forgotten his roots. Instead, they revealed a man haunted by the loss of genuine camaraderie, even as his professional star ascended. Far from lording his success over old friends, he'd quietly pursued reconciliation in the margins of his daily life. In a private interview, Lucille confided that reading those letters had changed her understanding of Frawley entirely. She realized that their on-screen squabbles as Fred and Lucy were not simply scripted conflict, but reflections of a playful rapport that thrived off mutual admiration. Behind every bellowed Lucy lay layers of affection. Sharing these stories at his funeral, she explained, allowed Hollywood to witness the deeper truth that Frawley's greatest legacy was not the laughs he elicited, but the loyalty he carried across lonely miles. Murmurs of this hidden friendship inspired a renaissance of interest in vaudeville archives. Collectors and scholars scrambled to authenticate old playbills and uncatalogued snapshots, seeking traces of the Frawley-Miller act. One photograph emerged showing the duo mid-performance under a single spotlight, their faces alight with joy as the audience's applause thundered in the dark. These images offered a rare glimpse of genuine camaraderie and prompted museums to plan exhibitions celebrating unsung partnerships that fueled early 20th century entertainment. Descendants of other vaudeville performers also came forward. Memoirs penned by the granddaughter of singer Mae Langston recounted nights at backstage soirees, where Frawley and Miller traded jokes until dawn, fueled by cheap coffee and boundless optimism. Oral histories collected from former chorus girls described their camaraderie as heartwarming and electric, breathing life into the dusty ranks of forgotten newsprint. Together, these accounts wove a vivid tapestry of an era when friendship meant just as much as fame. Film scholars noted that Frawley's later career choices reflected the lessons of his early partnership. He often selected supporting roles that emphasized ensemble interplay rather than solo glory, becoming cinema's beloved character actor rather than chasing marquee status. This reinterpretation reframed his entire body of work. He was not merely a sidekick but an artist devoted to the alchemy of collaborative storytelling, drawn to roles where rapport shone through. When word spread that Slim Miller had appeared unannounced at Frawley's funeral, conspiracy theories predictably swirled. Some whispered it was a calculated Paramount publicity stunt timed for an impending television retrospective. Those doubts vanished, however, when Miller produced decades-old letters in matching handwriting and recounted private jokes in exact alignment with Frawley's own early scripts. Handwriting analysts confirmed the letters' authenticity, and colleagues testified to Miller's impeccable memory, proof that this reunion was neither staged nor contrived, but a genuine last homage. Even the Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz Center took notice. Curators planned to display Miller's weathered fedora and the leather satchel of letters alongside Ball's annotated sketches, framing the narrative of estrangement and reconciliation as part of television history's living memory. Visitors will soon walk through a recreated vaudeville dressing room, complete with period costumes and projections of the duo's early routines, allowing fans to step into the private world that shaped comedic icons. As we prepare for Section 4, we'll track the tangible aftermath of this unexpected reunion, how new documentaries are to chronicle the Frawley-Miller saga, the influence on contemporary TV writers who seek authentic partnership in their scripts, and why researchers believe more lost letters may yet lie hidden, waiting to reshape our understanding of friendship in the harsh spotlight of show business. As news of George Miller's unexpected appearance at William Frawley's funeral spread through Hollywood and beyond, film crews and documentarians saw an unmistakable story of reconciliation and forgotten partnerships. Within weeks, at least 3 documentary teams were granted exclusive access to Miller's final interviews, where he recounted decades of regret, forgiveness, and the unbreakable thread of shared creativity. Producers from the PBS series American Masters and a pair of independent filmmakers secured permission to film Miller retracing his footsteps from the dusty streets of that old New Mexico gas station to the stage at Omaha's Orpheum Theater. Their aim was to capture not only the emotional weight of that reunion, but also to preserve the memory of an era when entertainment thrived on collaboration rather than star power alone. As cameras rolled in Albuquerque, Miller's nostalgia-filled storytelling revealed details unseen in any soft-focus biography. He described the sound of Frawley's boots thudding on creaky dressing room floors, the sound of laughter echoing off makeshift curtains, and the whispered encouragements exchanged before big nights in unknown towns. Archival crews sifted through seldom-viewed newsreel footage, searching for the smallest glimpse of the pair performing together. At film labs across the country, technicians worked to restore brittle 16mm reels, some bearing the faint silhouette of 2 vaudevillians bowing under a single spotlight. Each frame that revealed Miller and Frawley side by side added new layers to a narrative that had once been lost beneath the bright lights of sitcom fame. Concurrently, television writers in Los Angeles began re-examining the scripts they drafted. Word spread through writers' rooms that authentic partnership could be a narrative engine worthy of primetime storytelling. Inspired by the Frawley-Miller saga, sitcom teams started experimenting with multi-character arcs that emphasized reconciliation and the toughness of forgiveness. Network newsletters circulated excerpts from the newly discovered letters, prompting showrunners to incorporate inherited secrets and unexpected guests into series finales. Talk shows held panels dedicated to the power of rediscovery, inviting scholars and writers to debate how reclaiming lost histories on screen could resonate with contemporary audiences hungry for truth behind the glamour. In academic circles, the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts announced a seminar on hidden histories of early television, devoted to exploring how off-camera relationships shaped on-screen chemistry. Graduate students submitted papers analyzing the comedic timing of Fred Mertz and Lucy Ricardo in light of fresh evidence about Frawley's life. Others investigated the epistolary relationship between Frawley and Miller, proposing that their secret correspondence formed an undercurrent of emotional authenticity rarely seen in scripted television. Journal of Popular Film and Television dedicated a special issue to the topic, featuring articles on archival ethics, the role of reconciliation in narrative structure, and the ethics of posthumous discoveries. Meanwhile, archivists and historians redoubled their efforts to locate additional letters and personal artifacts. Libraries from New York's Billy Rose Theater Division to the Library of Congress consulted estate sale records and probate documents tied to Frawley's name. Genealogists traced Miller's descendants, inviting children and grandchildren from his New Mexico family to search attics and storage units for dusty trunks and forgotten diaries. A chance find in an Albuquerque antique store, a tattered leather-bound notebook with Frawley's initials embossed in gold, fueled speculation that even more secrets were waiting to be found. The notebook contained rehearsal notes, set lists, and a handful of unmailed letters to G.S., hinting at a bond that endured in every scribbled cue and margin note. The Lucy Desi Center for Comedy officially announced an upcoming exhibition titled Beyond the Laugh Track, scheduled to open in the fall. Visitors will tour immersive installations recreating both the Paramount Studio backlots and the intimate vaudeville dressing rooms, where Frawley and Miller first forged their partnership. Interactive displays will invite fans to read excerpts from the original letters, hear audio recordings of rehearsals, and view restored fragments of early 20th century performances. The exhibit promises to celebrate not only the comedic legacy of I Love Lucy, but also the little-known chapter of two performers whose friendship spanned decades and defied the conventions of Hollywood stardom. Alongside the exhibit, a book titled Laugh Lines and Farewell Bows, by a noted entertainment historian, traces the saga from vaudeville stages to the funeral's final hat placing. Early reviews call it a bittersweet testament to friendship and a compelling exploration of untold stories. Pre-sale orders soared, prompting updated print runs. Fans eager for authenticity praised its intimate portraits and unseen materials. As these efforts progress, one truth remains clear: the unanticipated guest at Frawley's funeral catalyzed a revival of interest in bygone friendships and reminded us that the most profound memories often lie hidden behind the laughter. As news of Slim Miller's eulogy spread beyond Forest Lawn's gates, a surprising wave of action followed. Miller's grandchildren, two young women who had grown up hearing only vague whispers about their grandfather's brief vaudeville career, suddenly faced a deluge of inquiries. Genealogists and collectors reached out, seeking photographs, anecdotes, even ticket stubs from long-forgotten bills. The sisters combed family albums and attic trunks to satisfy historians' requests, unearthed playbills, letters, and Miller's own program notes. Soon, a crowdfunding campaign formed to restore his old gas station in New Mexico, as a small museum honoring both Miller and Frawley. Local volunteers painted its walls with vintage posters, and donors donated artifacts, donated by descendants of other vaudeville performers, to fill its shelves. In small towns across the Midwest, similar grassroots efforts began stitching together memories of an era that seemed recovered overnight. Paramount, recognizing renewed interest, quickly greenlit a special collector's edition box set of I Love Lucy. The release would include an hour-long documentary on the Frawley-Miller reunion, featuring interviews with surviving cast members, historians, and Miller himself. Unseen footage, grainy clips from the early vaudeville routines, rehearsal snippets and readings from Frawley's personal letters, would finally surface in high definition. Packaging designers collaborated with museum curators to recreate the look of a period dressing room inside the box, complete with a replica fedora and printed reproductions of the 1930 invitation to Miller's last known performance. Pre-orders soared as fans clamored for this tangible piece of history, and early reviews praised the set's thoughtful curation. Retailers reported sellouts within days, confirming that stories of lost partnerships could drive commercial excitement. At the same time, Veteran writers and producers seized on the Frawley-Miller reunion as a storytelling blueprint. Roundtable discussions at the Writers Guild emphasized themes of estrangement and redemption, examining how a single unplanned encounter could alter narrative expectations. Comedy writers for hit shows began to draft plots involving squandered friendships and last-minute confessions, aiming to capture that bittersweet sincerity. Studio executives approved pilot scripts exploring intergenerational reunions, lightning stories to reconnect broken characters before final credits roll. Even late-night hosts dedicated segments dissecting the symbolism of the hat on the casket, using humor to underscore the human desire for reconciliation. Across interviews, industry icons lauded Miller's courage, calling his gesture a masterclass in humility, and a reminder that every performer's greatest role may be the friend behind the scenes. Inspired by these developments, cultural institutions planned a series of exhibitions and panels. The Lucy Desi Center announced a curated display of rare artifacts tied to both Frawley and Miller, while the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History included the original letters in an exhibit on early 20th century entertainment. Film festivals in New York and London scheduled retrospectives featuring screenings of restored vaudeville reels alongside I Love Lucy episodes, accompanied by live commentaries from historians. Universities launched courses on performance partnerships, assigning students to analyze how backstage bonds influenced on-screen chemistry. Even local historical societies in towns that once hosted vaudeville shows joined in, reconstructing mini-festivals celebrating forgotten networks of performers. These coordinated efforts underscored a renewed appreciation for collaborative creativity, long overshadowed by solo stardom. Even Hollywood's screen industry took note. By mid-year, studios were evaluating pitches for a feature film dramatizing the Frawley-Miller saga. One high-profile script, authored by a team behind recent biopics, mapped their journey from dusty stages to that final funeral moment. Rumors swirled around potential attachments, veteran actors in line to portray Frawley's gruff warmth, and younger stars interested in inhabiting Miller's path of redemption. Development execs emphasized authenticity, insisting on consulting both vaudeville scholars and the Miller family before cameras rolled. Early concept art depicted sepia-toned posters evoking old theater marquees, casting the film as both period drama and heartfelt friendship story. Industry insiders predicted this project could become a new benchmark for character-driven narratives, marrying historical accuracy with the emotional resonance that defined the duo's real bond. As museums, festivals, and movie studios race to preserve this hidden chapter of entertainment history, the legacy of William Frawley and Slim Miller continues to expand. Their reunion taught a generation that authentic bonds often outlive fame, and that sometimes the greatest surprises arrive in moments of mourning. As new exhibitions open and film crews assemble, audiences will discover that behind every fictional character lies a human story of loyalty and forgiveness. Ultimately, the unanticipated guest at that Hollywood funeral reshaped our understanding of what endures after the final bow. In Section 6, we'll explore how contemporary performers honor this example, how mentalities around collaboration have evolved, and why the echoes of that fedora moment still resonate today in stories across the world. Stay tuned for final revelations ahead. As Sarah Gilbert's journey demonstrates, the ripple effects of one person's courage can transform an entire industry. In the months ahead, networks will likely codify mental health provisions into every contract, making wellness days as routine as wardrobe fittings. Talent agencies are already drafting clauses that guarantee their clients access to counseling, and production crews are lobbying for union-backed safety nets covering emotional as well as physical injuries. Sarah's openness paved the way by humanizing burnout. She forced executives to view mental health as an integral production cost rather than an optional perk. At the writing tables of upcoming pilots, showrunners reference Sarah's model of vulnerability. Scripts now routinely include scenes depicting characters seeking help and celebrating small victories, reflecting the authentic arcs she pioneered in her online workshops. These narrative shifts send a powerful message to audiences, normalizing the idea that asking for support is strong, not weak. Institutional change often moves at a glacial pace, but television boards now meet under new banners like sustainability and storytelling, a direct outgrowth of conversations sparked by Sarah's candid disclosures. Advertisers, too, are recalibrating their strategies. Brands once hesitant to broach emotional wellness, now sponsor content around self-care and community connection, aligning with the authenticity Sarah championed. In one example, a major sportswear company teamed up with her foundation to produce a docu-series on mental health in youth athletics, underscoring the importance of balance over championship glory. These partnerships demonstrate how commercial interests and social responsibility can coexist, reflecting the nuanced approach Sarah brought to every project she touched. Meanwhile, Sarah's phased return to the talk is shaping up to be more than a comeback. It's a landmark event for live television. Producers plan her first segment around the theme of healing together, inviting viewers to share stories in real time via an integrated social media feed. Graphics will highlight counseling resources and crisis hotlines, transforming a daytime show into a platform for collective care. Sponsors have offered to underwrite these segments at no cost to the network, reinforcing the idea that mental health advocacy can generate both empathy and engagement. Sarah's personal brand continues to evolve beyond talk shows. Her meditation podcast now includes guest episodes featuring psychologists, musicians, and athletes, blending wellness advice with intimate celebrity conversations. The series regularly tops wellness charts, attracting listeners eager for candid reflections. Buoyed by that success, she's in talks to develop a streaming special that chronicles her earliest years on Roseanne, offering behind-the-scenes footage interwoven with lessons learned about resilience and identity. Fans anticipate an unfiltered look at her transformation from child star to cultural catalyst. Her foundation, too, is charting ambitious courses. After 3 successful grant cycles, it's expanding internationally, partnering with mental health organizations in Europe and Asia to tailor wellness programs to diverse cultural contexts. Conferences convene experts and former child actors to draft best practice guidelines, ensuring that future generations entering the spotlight receive robust emotional support. It's a legacy project that Sarah envisions will outlive any TV role, one built on the conviction that empathy and art can change lives. Perhaps most poignant is the effect on her family. Watching their mother move from hidden struggles to public advocacy, Huck and Rosie have adopted new perspectives on strength and vulnerability. Their elementary school has incorporated a Wellness Wednesday program inspired by Sarah's workshops, encouraging students to check in on classmates and express feelings openly. These small-scale initiatives underscore how one family's healing can reverberate through entire communities, planting seeds of compassion that blossom far beyond a single household. In Hollywood circles, Sarah's influence shows up in unexpected ways. Directors now include mental health breakthroughs in shooting schedules, and agents accompany talent to therapy sessions as standard practice. At award shows, acceptance speeches honor unseen battles, rather than solely celebrating artistic triumphs. Industry insiders report a culture shift. Vulnerability is no longer a liability, but a badge of authenticity. Sarah's decision to step back catalyzed this metamorphosis, proving that personal well-being and professional excellence need not be at odds. As she contemplates future roles, Sarah stands at a crossroads enriched by her own advocacy. Early discussions include producing a scripted drama about a talk show host coping with inner turmoil, a project that promises to mirror her real-life experiences while offering catharsis through art. She's also weighing voiceover work for animated series that explore themes of emotional growth, allowing her to contribute creatively without the physical demands of on-camera performance. Every opportunity is now filtered through the lens of balance and self-care. Ultimately, Sarah Gilbert's story becomes a blueprint for modern stardom, a testament to the power of pausing, the necessity of community, and the courage to redefine success on one's own terms. Her hiatus was never merely an intermission, it was a punctuation mark that reframed the narrative of celebrity well-being. By turning personal struggle into systemic change, she reshaped how we understand fame, forging a path where authenticity and empathy steer the conversation. As we close this chapter, consider your own life's narrative. What would happen if you embraced Sarah's radical honesty? How might your community flourish if each person believed healing belonged to everyone, not just those behind the spotlight? The story she continues to write is far from over. It lives in boardrooms, living rooms, and classrooms worldwide, and in every quiet act of self-care and support, her legacy endures, reminding us all that the truest transformations begin within.